focus. Click the links for Gab, Odysee, and Coffee. Are we going to turn a corner on woke? Are we allowed differences of opinion without being doxxed, fired, destroyed by a Bolshevik mob? No, absolutely not. The American demographic on social media is too low IQ to understand the destructive power of digital witch hunts. In fact, if you told them about witch hunts, they wouldn't understand the reference. They're dumb. They're too dumb to extrapolate into the future and see how this destroys civilization. And they're dumb people who are easily manipulated by CNN and mainstream media and mainstream social media because they're dumb, organically, legitimately. They're just low IQ people. People seem to think the government is going to ride in on a gray horse and fix things before they get too out of hand. No, sorry. Nobody is going to sweep in to save this. You're it. We're it. So form those militias now. Go back and watch the socialist meeting. I think it's on YouTube from a few years ago. You would assume that it was a joke, the point of personal privilege and all that. Everyone in that room was literally insane. These privileged Baizu kids are setting the cultural standard on Twitter. Those are the kids you're arguing with. And if you're on Twitter, what are you doing with your life? Every spaz in that room asked for special accommodations. They never actually got anything done because most of the meeting was wasted talking about that silly, frivolous stuff. I have to be so careful. I just wish I could use some words on YouTube. That's all. I used to be able to use these words. Now apparently I can't. So many bundles of sticks anymore. So I want to imagine a Stalin or Mao type speaker coming in there and telling them that they're all acting like, bound sticks, not soldiers. We need to be cognizant that many of our members are mentally ill. No shit. Who could have imagined that you guys were not all there? All of that performance was to find a wrong thinker to hunt for their 2 minutes of hate struggle session. They're smelling out the witch. They're hoping somebody would start to push back, but I never saw it happen. They keep wasting time with all this silly personal privilege point stuff. And, I wonder what people in Cuba think when they watch this, or Russia or China. Because they're used to being around normies who are nice, so they can try to use their privileged status as a lever or just to get more attention from the father they never had. But when it's a collection of spazzes, they can't use their privileged otherkin dragon fucker status as a lever because everyone there is LGBT, disabled, 110/24th, native two-spirit. They're all trying to out-privilege each other. If I was chair, oh God, I would love to be. I'd be taking my life in my hands, but it almost would be worth it. I'd say, listen, N-bombs, we get it. We're all BLT POCs. Stop wasting our time with all the tistic bundles of stickery. If you're really so nuts that clapping triggers you, then go watch on a Zoom call. You're all acting like a bunch of first world cigarettes. Or just get over it because, if we're all honest, you're probably faking for attention anyway. But while they look like a joke, a lot of them are literally sociopaths and very dangerous. Antifa and BLM aren't just kids from drug-addicted, abusive, whore, single moms. There's a good percentage of them that are outright suffering from schizophrenia or drug-addicted psychosis. Many of them should be in a group home, like a work farm in Alaska, very, very far away from the rest of us, for the rest of their lives. Literally, a lot of Antifa BLM are going to be on the street. I mean, a big percentage of them are going to be on the street or die from overdose. The overdose rate for that crowd has got to be very high. Anyway, you can see their entitlement and inner thoughts on Twitter where they see a game, a movie, or a comic, and they scan it for something that they can use as a lever on Twitter to gain some dopamine. A lot of the stuff they're like, I was watching a Comicsgate show the other day, and I was so out. Bruh, why were you watching? You knew what it was when you turned it on. And so you watched for all 2 hours and taking notes the whole time. That's insane, even for left-wing people. We don't watch their stuff because it's just so friggin' boring to get through. I can't imagine why you would watch a right-wing, or I don't know if right-wing is the right term, but a normie CG channel just so you can take notes and try to report them. These people will do anything for attention. But the thing is, they also won't create anything, but they will weirdly slither into an area and assume control. Then, of course, they'll kick the original creators out. I guess they need to be inclusive by excluding you. Who invents most cool stuff? Englishmen, Frenchmen, and Germans. There's literally a triangle of Europe. And that is very problematic to these entitled Twitter kids. And keep in mind, some of these kids are like 60. you have people like Mark Wade, who is what happens when a tantrum thrower never grows out of that phase. They just grow into a 6 foot, 250 pound pussy. The hard truth is, if you keep changing a game or a story or a movement to accommodate a bullshit soy boys, these SGW babies, you're going to remove the rough, shiny, sharp facets that make it special and enticing. Yes, you know, roses have thorns. You've got greedy dwarves and bloodthirsty orcs, and then you've got the higher ascended blonde elves. It felt like a real world in another plane of existence. Yes, orcs are evil. European storytelling has always had a long history of fantastic creatures. Maybe you could use them as symbolic of the spectrum of man's inner self, the twisted, ugly, misshapen goblin at one end and the beautiful, blonde, super advanced elves at the other. If, who was that guy who did the comic book? Kirby's? The Eternals kind of reminds me of that. If the themes in Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings are too close to home, then they're not for you. You can literally just write your own story or create your own board game. And there's never been a better time than right now with crowdfunding, with social media. There's a lot of like very free, very, I was going to say low budget, but actually it's free advertising on social media that you can take advantage of. Nothing is stopping the SJW except this. It takes a lot of hard work to do anything. Anything worth doing is going to take a lot of hard work, including writing and art. It takes a lot of polishing, and you have to be able to fail repeatedly without having it break you. That's something SJWs can't handle. For some reason, criticism makes them lose their freaking minds, where we grew up in like a sea of criticism. Where we just don't even notice it anymore. It's just part of it's like the tides. You're in the ocean. It's like wave you go up a couple inches, you go down a little bit, you go ebb and flow back and forth. And you're constantly adjusting it. And I think they grew up in an environment where they were exposed to too much womanly soy energy. They were molly-coddled. Too many games were played without scores being kept. Everyone got a gold star and a participation ribbon. They were told every story they wrote or picture they drew was great, which is fine when they're young, encourage them. But when you hit about 12, these stories have to start getting some structural criticism. I'm not talking about the content. Write about gay dragons all you want. But there are basic rules of storytelling to retain an audience. Writing a story is one thing. Selling it is an entirely different beast. Stories and games that sell have to matter. They have to grab the customer and convince them that the story universe is worth the money. This interplay of creator and customer base with criticism or even brutally cruel personal attacks that are completely unnecessary, that's a response that elicits an improved product. That kind of interplay is not something that SJWs can handle. But the market is where the bullshit ends. And I mean, like, if you're on YouTube and you try getting money on YouTube, you see what a challenge it is. And so that's the difference between, like, putting, I don't know, your mouth where your something is. Where's it go with this? I don't know. You can have a huge Twitter following, but Kim and Kim or Vagrant Queen only sell 900 issues because the art and writing suck. You flip through it and say, dude, this art is trash and you're mad at your dad. Improve the product. And like a lot of the art, it's just like, okay, take 6 months or a year of just drawing serial figures moving through space. Just a year hard. It's like the art is like, yes, you're an artist and you're on your way, but you're not there yet to sell it for money. And there's some Comicscape projects that are like that too. I'd say the exact same thing. It's like, just spend all your free time for the next year copying figures, like serial figures, not just standalone, you know, because you're drawing a graphic novel format. It's a kind of a different art. Selling a personal service product, even if you're just selling time on a YouTube channel, is a great opportunity to learn how to deal with people and stay cool. Some do it better than others. But when you tell a kvetching, whinging soy pussy to just create their own game, that way they can make all the diverse cancer they wish, they can make the orcs wear dresses and butt rape the hobbits if that turns them on. They can diversify the fantastic world so much that half the characters are breastless African women with the sides of their head shaved or some other silly cliche. They can make their fantasy world look exactly like an SJW fantasy. Everyone can be having sex with anything that moves and identify as a different species. But it takes a lot of work, and when it's done, probably nobody's going to buy it. The difference between an organic labor of love story and propaganda is the organic storyteller has a story they think other people will want. If you read something that you wrote and it makes you legitimately laugh, and you just know it's like, yes, other people will appreciate this. The story's inside you, it needs to be shared, and hopefully you can get that monetized. And SGW is different. They're more reactive. They want the world to agree with them and their brainwashing. The problem is we haven't been brainwashed, so we can see how bad their ideas are, or we grew out of our brainwashing. The thing with left versus right storytelling is that we were where the left are now, but we were there when we were children. We matured out of it, so we can understand the left and their childish thinking. We know as they grow and ascend into their fully spiritual awake elf selves, they will see the world as it is. It's not good or bad, it just is. You don't accept reality, but you just accept reality. Things are the way they are, not our interpretation of them or the way we wish they were. The easier, softer path might be a difficult one, but it's better than the alternatives. It's why you see them pulling out old stories, old IPs, and race swapping out the Europeans, literally washing them out of stories they created, because SGWs are goblins. They can't create anything in a commercial sense. Writing a story that you enjoy, getting someone to read it and enjoy it is something, or these are steps. Getting them to pay you for it is a huge, huge psychological shift. And SGWs have a problem with that because they always do this thing where like, oh, I created a thing or like whatever, like it or not. It's like, okay, here's 900 issues. Congratulations. That's not the way you do it. It's like, oh yeah, I spent 2 years working very, very hard on this. I know you're going to freaking love it and it's worth $30. That's how you sell something that sells. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. Thanks for supporting Coffee, and I will see you guys all next episode.